Year 2, this video is all about problem solving and is to support you with your final week of maths learning in Year 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through some of the things that we do in problem solving and help to remind you of some of the things that you've learnt this year and how you can go about thinking about your problem solving this week to help you with some of your answers. Now, the most important thing to remember is that you know these 4 rules of number. So you know take away, you know add, you know times, and you know divide. And with your problem solving, all that is using your knowledge of these to help you solve problems. There might also be some problem solving to do with time or shape or measure, but you also know things about that as well. So it's all about applying your knowledge, the things that you know to problem solving. Sometimes it can be a little bit tricky, and this is where we've got to use this. We've got to use our trial and error. And we've talked about this before in Year 2, and this means a little bit of not giving up. It means a little bit of trying again. It means trying your ideas out, and if they don't work at first, try again. It also means trying some different things, so maybe trying out things in order, trying out your ideas in a way that means you're not going to make mistakes. It means just trying lots and lots of different things. So when you are using trial and error in your problem solving, just make sure that you don't rub your ideas out because you might go back to something. It might mean that you end up writing and drawing lots on pages or blank pieces of paper like I'm going to do today. So with your problem solving, I know it can be a little bit frustrating because you don't find the answer straight away, but trial and error is definitely the way forward. So this is the problem that I'm going to work through with you now. So it says Mary measures the mass of 2 cylinders. And if we have a look at the picture, there's 2 cylinders there and they are sat on some scales. And it says, what is the mass of 10 of these cylinders? So the first thing that I've got to do is I am going to underline some words to help me make sense of what it is that I'm trying to find out. So Mary measures the mass. So I'm going to underline the word mass because I know that I'm going to need to know how much something weighs. So that is to do with weight, that word. So sometimes it's important to underline the vocabulary that we're going to need to use. And I know that we are talking about 2 cylinders. Now, it would be quite easy to look at this picture and think that the question is going to be how much do the 2 cylinders weigh? But that's not what we're being asked. It says what is the mass of 10 of these cylinders? So this is what I actually need to find out, is how much do 10 cylinders weigh? So what we've got to do then now is there are 2 things that we have got to do. I don't know how much 10 cylinders weigh because at the minute I don't know how much 2 cylinders weigh because I've not properly looked at the dial on the measuring scales. So if we have a look here, we've got 2 cylinders and my first job is to find out how much do 2 cylinders weigh. So you can see clearly here it's pointing at 7 kilograms. So what I've done is I've drawn 2 cylinders over here. So and then I'm going to add my information that is 7 kilograms. Okay, so now what is the mass, so what is the weight of 10 of these cylinders? So currently I have got 2 cylinders here. Now what I need to think about is what is the relationship between 2, how am I going to get to the number 10? How many more times is 10 than 2? So because I've already said that word times, how many more times bigger is 10 than 2? I think that I can use my times tables to help me with this. So what have I got to do to this number to make it 10? So to get from here to here, I think the number sentence that I need is 2 times 5 equals 10. So if I have 5 times the amount, that's going to give me 10. But that's not the answer, because this is a 2-step problem. I've got to do 2 things to help me get the answer. So I know that 10 is 5 times 2, so it's 5 times the amount, so I'm going to end up with 10. What I've got to do now is I've got to work out how much will 10 of these cylinders weigh. So if I know that 2 weighs 7 kilograms, what have I got to do to 7 kilograms to get the answer? Okay, so what I've done now is I have drawn my 10 cylinders in groups of 2. Okay, so there's 5 lots of those. Now the other bit of information that I know is that I know that 2 of these cylinders weighs 7 kilograms, but we've now got 5 times that amount because we know that there are 10 cylinders altogether, because that was the calculation that we did over here. Because we know in our problem, if I go back to my problem, we're being asked what is 10 of these cylinders, what is the weight of 10 of these cylinders, and we know that that is 5 times the amount that we've started with here. So this is the amount of cylinders, okay, and we've now got 5 lots of those, so that means that this set weighs 7 kilograms. This set weighs 7 kilograms. This set weighs 7 kilograms. I've got another 2 here. And we know that this set weighs 7 kilograms. And finally, we know that this set here weighs 7 kilograms. So we've got 5 groups of 2. Let's just check. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So 10 cylinders, and each of them weighs 7 kilograms. Now, I don't think we know in year 2 how to do our 7 times tables, but we do know our 5 times tables. So we've got 5 groups. So we've got 5 groups, and we've got 7 of them. So we're going to use our 5 times tables to find the answer. Okay, so we are going to count 7 lots of 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 kilograms. And that has given me the answer to my question. So what is the mass of 10 of these cylinders? I'm just going to talk you through what we did. Here's my 2 cylinders, which weighed 7 kilograms. We had to think about how to get from 2 cylinders to 10. Well, to do that, I know that 2 times 5 is 10. So we had to make 5 times the amount of cylinders than what we've started with. So whatever we did to this number, we had to also think about doing it to this number as well. So over here I drew my 5 lots of 2 cylinders, each weighing 7 kilograms. And then what I've done is I very cleverly realised that I don't know my 7 times table, not yet, but I do know my 5 times table. And I know that I could do 5 groups that weigh 7 kilograms each would give me 35 kilograms. So Mary measures the mass of 2 cylinders. What is the mass of 10 of these cylinders? The answer would be 35 kilograms. Right, year 2, here is another problem that I'm going to have a look at with you. So I'm going to read this through to you, and then we're going to think about what the important information is. So Jack and Dora each have some money. Dora says, I spent half of my money. Jack says, I spent £12. They have the same amount of money left. Dora spent £20. How much money did Jack have at the start? So this is the question that we are trying to answer. Okay, so how much money did Jack have at the start? Okay, So we don't want to know really how much they spent. That's not the real answer, but we might need to try and find that out whilst we're doing this problem. This is what we need to answer, is how much money did Jack have at the start before they spent any money. The other thing that we need to do is we need to try and work out what information we have already. So we know that Dora spent half of her money. And we also know that Dora spent £20. So we know that half of her money was £20. And we know that Jack spent £12. And we know that they have the same amount of money left. Okay, so what I've then done is I have drawn this out, okay, to help me to try and think about what this information means, and then I'm going to do my calculations from there. So Dora she spent £20, okay, and we know that that was half of her money. Okay, so we need to think about what was the total that she spent. Jack, he spent £12, okay, but we want to know how much did he have to begin with, okay? So probably what we need, and then over here, we know also that they both had the same amount left. So the first thing that we need to work out for Dora is what the other half is. Well, we know that if half is 20, we're going to do the opposite and we're going to double it to find out what the total was. Okay, so 20, add 20, we know is 40. Okay, so to begin with, I'm going to put up here, Dora had £40 to spend. That was her total amount to start with. So we're going to find out what Jack was and put it up here as well. So Dora is pretty much finished because we know that Dora spent £20 and she would have had £20 left because that's how much was left out of the £40 that she started with at the beginning. So over here, with the same amount left, I can put that we know now that they've both got to have £20 left. So that's going to help us work out Jack's amount. So let's look at Jack then. So we know that Jack spent £12, but he's got to have £20 left. So what have we got to do to these two numbers to find out what he had to start with? So these are my choices. I could do a times, a divide, an add, or a take away. I wonder which one it's going to be. When I look at these two here, I know that this is how much he spent and this is how much he needs to have left. And I need to find out the total that he started with. Now that word total, when I'm talking through my ideas, that word would make me think about adding. Because I think that if I find out the total of this one and this one, it's going to tell me how much he started with, which is what the question is here. How much money did Jack have at the start? So I'm going to try and do an add and see if that gives me the right amount. Okay. It's always really helpful to think about our 4 rules of number, our times, divide, add and take away, and think about which calculation is going to help you the most. Is it going to give you the right answer? So I need to add these two together. So I'm going to use our formal method of calculation. 20 add 12, so that's 20 add 0, and 10 add 2. Okay, and then I'm going to have 30 add 2, which gives me 32. So up here I would then write that Jack had £32 to start with. So I'll just go through what I did again. So the first thing that I did was that I underlined all of the information that I needed to know. I looked at the question that it was asking me to find out that I definitely knew what I was trying to work out. Then I drew out my information. So remember, with problem solving, it's absolutely fine to draw and to try different things out, that trial and error, and to try and think about how you can think about what you need to know. So we knew that Dora spent £20 and that was half of her money. So we did need to find out sort of what the other half was worth as well, which is half of 20. She would need another 20, so she started with £40. The other clue in here was that they both had the same amount left. Well, we know that if she spent 20 and that was half, she would have £20 left. So we had to put over here that the same amount left would be £20 each. We knew that Jack spent £12, but we now also knew that he had £20 left. So how much would he be starting with at the beginning? I realised that I needed to try and find a total of these two numbers, what he spent, but also what he had left. And that made me think about add, because this word would help me think that I need to do an add calculation. So I did 20 add 12. We're using the formal method that we use in year 2. You might just be able to do that calculation straight away, but remember, it's always useful to write it down so that if you do make a mistake, you can go back and check it. So then I worked out the answer was 32. So now I've got the answer. Dora started with £40 and Jack started with £32. I hope going through those problems have helped you year 2. I look forward to seeing your problem solving this week.